This is my last time filming this. Otherwise, this video will get scrapped because I'm tired of talking about this over and over and over again. I am so tired of it. So, my name is Caitlin and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to be talking about all of the books that I've read in the year of 2021 from January all the way up to September. So if I seem a little unenthusiastic, it is because I filmed this an uncountable amount of times now, and there have been an uncountable amount of problems on every aspect of this video. I'm so fucking tired of it, and I just want it to be over. So that's about it. Like I said, my name is Caitlin. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. If you don't dislike it, leave a negative comment. You know, as my journalism professors always said, all press is good press as long as you spell my name right. So make sure you spell it Caitlin, please, and thank you. Let's get on into the video. So, we are going to start off with the first month of every year in the Western American calendar, which is January. So, the first book that I read this year was Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, and this is the final book of the Mistborn trilogy, and this really just, I think, was a foreshadowing for the rest of my 2021, because boy do I love Brandon Sanderson, and it has been the year for me of Brandon Sanderson and pining over books that, you know, are similar to any of his. So if you have any recommendations, comment down below, let me know. But this book I gave a 5 stars. I loved the way this trilogy capped off. I'm a big fan. Next, I read The Shining by Stephen King, which I gave a 3 stars. I don't love Stephen King, and I didn't love this book, so that is that. Next, I read Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I love this book. I gave it a 4 stars. It's really interesting. If you're looking for a book about a man in a giant mansion that fills up with water, like the tides, then read this. Super whimsical, super fun, super magical. I love this book. Definitely recommend it. Next, I read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, which the more I record this video, the more I want to give it a 1 stars. But I did write it down as 2, so we will be giving it a 2 star. I hate this book, and I hate this trilogy. I really dislike the Grishaverse. I would say I dislike Leigh Bardugo's writing, but I loved Ninth House. That was my jam. That is up on my bookshelf. I love Ninth House. All of her Grishaverse stuff, or I should say all of the Grishaverse stuff that I have read, is not for me. So let's move on. Then I read First Sister by Lyndon A. Lewis. The author has pitched this as LGBTQIA plus Star Wars. And who doesn't love that? I know I love that. So if you love that, you should check it out, because I haven't seen enough people talking about this book. 5 stars? Did I say 5 stars? Then I read Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I gave it a 2 stars. Let's skip the rant. And we finish off the month of January with reading Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Deeply sorry. I really enjoyed this book. I would give it a loose 4 stars, 3.5. It's too much big brain science for my pea brain dumb brain. And that's all I'm gonna say. But other than all of that lengthy science sometimes, this is a super enjoyable science fiction novel for me. That's January. Then, as our Western months in the year go, we move on to February. The first book I've read is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I absolutely love the Stormlight Archive, as you will see going forward. I gave this first book a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely adore it. I love the Stormlight Archive so much. I know that it might be a ripoff of some other more classic work, but I like this better, and that's all I'm going to say. I love this. I love this book series so much, and I can't wait to see where it goes because we're getting the 5th book, and that's wrapping up the first half of this series, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. Spoilers. Kaladin is definitely fucking gonna get marked. And I'm gonna love every second of it because my favorite Sanderson arcs are satisfying character growth with a really satisfying death at the end. That's why I loved Hero of Ages. That's why you'll see later in the video, I love the Poppy War trilogy. I just am a sucker for that. That savage, like, martyr ending. And I just have a feeling that's where Kaladin's character is going. Leave your comments down below. But yeah, spoilers ended. This is a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Next, I read The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I absolutely did not like this book. People adore Robin Hobb, and, you know, to each their own. But to me, I found it very boring and lackluster, and it was a 2 stars, and I don't think I will read anymore because there are so many other fantasy books that I can read first, right? Then I closed off first Grishaverse trilogy with Rune and Rising by Lee Bardugo, which I gave a 2 stars. Then I read Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, which I gave a 4 stars. Do your research before reading this book if you haven't already. There are definitely some trigger warnings in this, but I really enjoyed this book. Next, I read The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which I think gets the Best Audiobook of All Time award. Absolutely phenomenal. I also just loved this story. As a New York native my entire life, I've lived an hour outside of New York City, literally since I was born, and I really appreciated the story quite a lot, and I think it's important. So if you haven't read it, you definitely should. And you definitely should read the audiobook because the production is phenomenal. I love it. Yes. Then I read Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. I really enjoyed this book. I don't rate nonfiction, and that's that. This book doesn't have a rating, but it's very informative. It's very good. If you are looking for more points that aren't brought up in the mainstream white feminist movement, then I would pick this up because I think it has a lot of really interesting points that are very relevant to today's day and age, and you should read it. That's that. Then I read A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne Brown, but I gave it a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the character dynamic, the rich fantasy setting. Then I read An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon, and let me tell you, Rivers Solomon is one of the most underrated authors that I've ever read from, because their work is truly phenomenal. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, but I've also read their other book that I have, The Deep, and I personally enjoyed that one even more. So please, if you haven't read River Solomon and their work yet, please do so. They are just phenomenal in everything they've written that I've read. I love Rivers Solomon. Then I read How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin, which I gave a 3.5 stars. I am not a super big person for short stories, but I did enjoy it, and that's that. Let's move on. I love N.K. Jemisin. I'll read everything she publishes. Then I read The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, and I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the first book quite a lot. I remember really identifying with Tao and the way he processed his grief, even though that's probably not very healthy. But nevertheless, I still really enjoyed this book, really liked it quite a lot. And yeah, 5 out of 5 stars for The Rage of Dragons. Last in the month of February, we have Lakewood by Megan Giddings, and this is a 3 stars. It's a thriller. It was solid. It was a solid thriller. Now we're moving on to the month of March. Hello, March. Spring has sprung, and so has reading. So, first off, we have The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, and I really enjoyed The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. He is one talented author. The fact that he can get you emotionally attached to all of these characters while he simultaneously kills them off one by one is quite beautiful, and I really appreciated that. So I gave this book a 4 stars, which for me in a thriller is truly impeccable, and I cannot wait for my hold that's on Libby for My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is his most recent release. I am just so excited. Then this month I read Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, which is the second book in the Stormlight Archive series, and I loved it, and I gave it a 5 stars. What is new? Next, I read Fires of Vengeance, which is the second book, and I'm not quite sure how many they are, but this is by Evan Winter. I really enjoyed it, but a little less than the first one. I gave this one a 4 stars. Still highly enjoyable, and I mean, quite honestly, to me, these covers are kind of like unbeatable. I really think they're really cool, especially the second one, and that's badass, so that's all I gotta say. Then I read Six of Crows, and again, another book that I've talked so much about that I want to demote it a star because I'm tired of fucking talking about it, by Lee Bardugo. I gave it a 3 stars in my notebook. I am so close to giving it a 2 star, but I'll keep it at 3 star for the people. I don't like this book, and that's all I'm gonna say about it because I ranted about it in another video. I can link it in the information card, but just no. Nope. I'm not touching that one. Then I read The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna, and I gave that a 3 stars. The first 2/3, I didn't really like it, and I didn't think I was going to enjoy the book at all. I thought I was going to give it like a 2 stars, but the last third for me really redeemed it, and I might continue on depending on where I am at that stage in my life, but maybe not. Then I read Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, and I absolutely love the Brown sisters. This is the last in the Brown sister trilogy, even though, Miss Hibbert, I'm, right now going to start a petition for a Gigi Brown book, please. I would love a Gigi book. We can have a Gigi book in the present. We can have a Gigi book in the past. We can have a Gigi book in the future. We love Grandma Gigi. Gigi Brown is just an icon. So I would love to see a Gigi Brown book. That is me. This book is a 5 stars. Then I read The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon, which I gave a 4 stars. This is like the 4th book in the Bone season, whatever this is. I think it's like 6 books. Pretty good, pretty strong set of books there. If you disliked the first book, it gets much different from then on. So I would suggest like to continue reading, because it's not like the book where it's like, oh, it changes in book number 4. Like, no, it starts to change right now. So I definitely would read that second book. It's very good, and it gets better from there. So then I have Chain of Iron, which I own, but quite honestly, I'm too lazy to take out. It's like tucked underneath. And to be quite honest, I am like this close to getting rid of all of my Cassandra Clare books and like just chalking up never reading another one of her books again. I'm tired of all of the miscommunication that's in her books. I am so tired of it. And you know what, Cassandra Clare, if you don't fucking cut the shit out, your books will be off my shelf and into another person's shelf, okay? All right? Then we have Edge Dancer by Brandon Sanderson, which I gave a 5 stars. This is a Stormlight Archive novella. In April, I started with Oathbringer, because this was the month of Brandon Sanderson for me. You will see. Oathbringer is what I started with, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I love Brandon Sanderson, and I love the Stormlight Archive. What is new? Then I read Dawn Shard, which is by Brandon Sanderson, which is a Stormlight Archive novella. And I did, in fact, give it 5 stars. Then I moved on to this hunk, Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, which is the 4th and most recent Stormlight Archive book. And I swear it's like 7 pounds. It's very heavy. I absolutely adored this book, gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. And these covers are just so gorgeous to me. They are absolutely breathtaking. This is why I special ordered the UK editions off Book Depository. I love them. We move on to Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and this is one of his older books, but I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I really recommend reading it before the Stormlight Archive series. That was my mess up. You should read it beforehand, but it's really good. 4 out of 5 stars. What's up, sexies? It's Editing Caitlin here. I forgot to say I read Crooked Kingdom. It's that fucking forgettable. It's 2 stars from me. Last book of the month, we have Elantris by Brandon Sanderson again, and that's going to close out the month. Again, one of his older novels. I believe this was his first, and it was a 4 out of 5 stars. Enjoyable, but on a scale of Brandon Sanderson, not his best work, and that's okay. Then we move on to May, which is where I have some criticism of Brandon Sanderson. I read The Alloy of Law, which is the first Wax and Wayne book, and I really didn't enjoy it. I am not the biggest Wax and Wayne fan. Maybe it's the Western vibes, maybe it's like the misogyny. I'm not quite sure, but it's one of the two. Next, we have Shadows of Self, again, Wax and Wayne, again, 3 stars by Brandon Sanderson. Let's move on. Then I read Witches Steeped in Gold by Cianon Smart, and this was a 3 star. Again, kind of like the Gilded ones. Maybe I'll continue if I'm in like the right headspace at that point in time, but if not, then it's like not gonna break my heart. Hey, it's Editing Caitlin back again. I read Bands of Mourning. I love Bands of Mourning. Steris is my bitch, and Wax and Wayne get a little bit more tolerable. So this one is a 4 stars from me. And lastly, for the month of May, we read These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and I loved this book. I really did. I don't know Shakespeare, but I do know Romeo and Juliet, and I do love this book. It was still palatable and still really fun, and I'm really excited to read These Violent Ends, which I believe comes out soon, and that is exciting to me. Let's start this off with All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I enjoy the Murderbot Diaries books immensely, but they are not quite long enough yet for me to really connect with our friend Murderbot. Like, I connect with him, but like the story, I guess, is what I don't connect with. So I'm very excited for the most recent book that came out, which I haven't read yet, because I think that's a full-length novel, so I'm pretty excited to read that. Next, I have Going Postal by Terry Pratchett, which I gave a 4 stars. I would have more Terry Pratchett on this list if there were more US audiobooks, but they're slim pickings. And to be quite honest, I don't like doing my audiobooks off of YouTube. I need to listen to the book and read the book at the same time, otherwise, like, I lose track. So, next we have Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells. Again, Murderbot Diaries novella, 4 stars. But I know, you're gonna yell at me. You're like, Caitlin, this is the 3rd Murderbot. And I'm like, I know, I fucked up. I did read them out of order, and I was confused, okay? I was a little confused in the beginning. But I read Artificial Condition at the end of the month, and we fill some gaps. But I know I made a bit of a blunder. Next, we're going to move on to The Dark Forest by Cixin Liu. Again, this is the 2nd book. I think it's a trilogy. The 3-body, whatever. And yeah, it was pretty enjoyable. Again, I give it a loose 4 stars because of all the heavy science that my little pea brain cannot understand. Then we move on to one of my favorite books this year. Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Amidie. This book is one of my favorites of the year. It was so strong. The fucking dark academia vibes, the cult vibes, the secret society vibes, they're all there in this book. And it's Black and queer. And it's so good. It's really, really enjoyable. If you haven't given this book a read yet, what are you doing? You definitely should read this book. It is so good. And we wrap this month off with Artificial Condition by Martha Wells, which again, I give a 4 stars. Next up in July, we have American Gods by Neil Gaiman. And do your research before you read this book. I did not, and there are lots of trigger warnings in this. It's a loose 4 stars because of all the trigger. But it's still pretty good. It's really strong writing. I remember all of the birds, and you don't know, but you might know because I had a picture of a crow from my deck last video. But I love birds, and I feed my neighborhood birds. I truly love them like they're my own pets, like they're my cat or dog, and I love them. And I loved the birds in this book, and that's like a weird thing for me, but like, yeah. Then we have The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I gave it a 3 stars. It's not one of her stronger works, but still enjoyable. And I love N.K. Jemisin, so I will read everything that she puts out. Next, this is the first reread of the year for me, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I love The Poppy War, and I love this trilogy so much. It holds a really special place in my heart for a lot of different reasons. I resonate with Rin for a lot of different reasons, and I know that might not be good. And I resonated with her a little less on the reread, if you might know, emotionally at least. But I really love this book, and, you know, we don't ask fantasy to be historically accurate, right? Because it's a fantasy novel. It's supposed to be fantastical and new, right? But I really appreciate the elements of historical accuracy that she brought into this fantasy book. And that's all I'll say on that, because I know it was like a debate on book Twitter like a couple like days or like a week ago about like historical accuracy in fantasy books, and like I don't want to, like, I don't care about historical accuracy in fantasy books. Like, I don't give a shit. But I like this book because she adds it into it, right? You don't need it, but she adds it, just like you would add magic or just like you would add some sort of world building. And I really enjoy that about this trilogy. Next, we have The Black Prism by Brent Weeks, and this is a disappointing read for me. I thought this was going to be a new favorite, but it was a 3 stars. I am so tired of reading about the objectification of women without reading about equal objectification of men. I want to see cock-slinging slashers and bouncing titties. Both can exist at the same time, but unfortunately, we only get the latter. And lastly of the month, we have The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. And I enjoyed this book. It's a real chunky one. And to be quite honest, I don't remember about a third of this book, I would say, in total. I say I remember all of the main events. And that's all I need to know for the upcoming TV show and to continue on with the series, because I have Daniel Green's videos to watch and recap. Next, we have the month of August. We're finally the end of the year. Thank God. We have The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. And again, like, the first book was throw yourself in the fire. This book is very slow burn politics, and I love that. I just love it. Kuang has a way with words. She has a way with narrative, and she has a way with plot. And I love this trilogy so fucking much with all of my heart and soul. Next, we have Persuasion by Jane Austen. I would like a round of applause from everyone. I am 22 years old. I technically was supposed to finish reading this at the ripe age of a sophomore in high school, and I can't do math, so you let me know. But as a 22-year-old woman, I finally finished Persuasion by Jane Austen, and I gave it a 3 stars. For me, I guess like on a classic scale or like a thriller scale, like 3 stars is like a pretty solid book. Pretty good, right? Right? Lastly, this month, it was a really slow reading month for me. We all have those months, all right? We have Ariadne, which is a phenomenal book by Jennifer Saint. I gave it a 4 stars. If you haven't read this already, what are you doing? It is so good. If you like The Song of Achilles or Circe, I haven't read Circe, but I assume if you like Circe, you would like Ariadne. And I really enjoyed this book a lot. And yeah, that's all I'll say about it. You should read it. It is a 4 out of 5 stars, and I love the cover too, because I love the colors. And last, we have the month of September, which I don't physically have any of the books, but that's okay. We have Dune by Frank Herbert, which if you've watched any of my videos, you know that the Dawn Arc herself, Donna Klein, the legend, recommended this book to me. And I love Donna Klein. So for that reason, this book is a 3 stars. I did give it a 2 because to me, it was okay. That's how I felt about it. I felt the Star Wars inspiration from it, is what I will say, which is why I also bumped it up to a 3 stars. Because Star Wars was born from Dune, like Tatooine and lightsabers and the sandworms and such. So, you know. Oh, and fucking Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya are sexy. They're my dream. So, I'm really excited for the movie. Then we have Exit Strategy by Martha Wells, again, 4 out of 5 stars. Then I have Sadie by Courtney Summers, which I have a bone to pick with everyone on BookTube about this, because I have heard so many people recommend this book. And if you're on this channel, I'm going to tell you hard stop right now. If you have any sort of empathy for someone with addiction, and that is my opinion, as someone who has been through, issues with addiction, maybe not personally, but I've been affected by addiction. I think the point of view and narrative that is pushed by Sadie herself is quite honestly disgusting. And to be quite honest, this audiobook is nothing compared to The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin or even Dune by Frank Herbert. And lastly, we have The Second Rebel by Lyndon A. Lewis. Again, gay Star Wars. What more can we possibly ask for, to be quite honest? I know I cannot ask for anything more. So I absolutely love it. I see like a bit of a Darth Vader arc on the way, and I'm loving it. Like, spoilers, like Astrid, I'm like sensing a Darth Vader arc. Like, I'm really just sensing it. Right? Right? Or maybe with Hero? Maybe, right? I absolutely love this fucking trilogy. And the first one I loved for the romance. The second one I love for absolutely everything else. It is so good. You should definitely read it because I don't see enough people reading it on BookTube. And that is that. All right, friends. So that is it for my video today. It has been a really long journey with this video, and I'm exhausted. And I really hope that this is the last time I ever have to film these fucking 50 whatever fucking amount of books that this is, because I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind if I have to talk about the Grishaverse one more goddamn time, to be quite frank. I cannot stand it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you had a fun time going through all the books that I read this year. I think relatively it was a good year because I have a lot of the books sitting next to me, and that's a good thing, because the shelf behind me is empty and the floor is full of books that I loved. That is that. And I hope you had a really great time with me today. Make sure to give my video a like. Make sure to give my channel a subscribe if you enjoyed it here. If you didn't, don't like it, unlike it, dislike it for that matter. Leave a negative hate comment if you want to, as long as you spell my name correctly. That is Caitlin. Thank you for my journalism professors for always reminding me that all press is good press as long as you spell my name right. Have a nice day. Peace, love, peace, and love. Bye-bye.